Hello, I am Radagast, and this is Global Mission of Peace, Mystic View, with a review and preview of 2016 and 2017. And of course, I am joined by Shelley. Hello, Shelley.
Hello, and hello, everyone.
So, I guess we'll start with a review of 2016. And I think the most important thing that happened in 2016, I think the election of Donald Trump is pretty important. But for me, from a real human standpoint, something that I think speaks to my heart was Standing Rock.
Absolutely.
And what I like to call the world summit of the new consciousness and awakening.
The demonstration of a new consciousness as well. It wasn't just on the back burner.
Right. And from a numerological perspective, 2016 was a 9-year, 216.
Yeah.
So that was the ending of a cycle.
Yeah. Red monkey. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
And a completion.
Yes. And so 2017 now becomes a one universal year. And of course, the rooster, the Chinese year of the rooster, to announce this new dawn, the dawning of a new 9-year cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully a whole other cycle, maybe even another yuga.
Well, I'm counting on another yuga, but January 28th. So we still have that's when the
Yes.
year begins. But so that tells us we have a few days to really strong finish. Look at what the areas of completion that you just need to tidy up a little bit, tighten up.
Yeah.
So that you can really just let that go and step into the new dawn, the rooster.
Yes, I think another thing we saw really kind of come to an end was the end of political correctness.
Boy.
From a point of view of where everybody was kind of policing their speech, walking on eggshells. The social justice warrior, the most shrill representatives of political correctness, I think, had their loudest moment in 2016. This is not to say we don't like social justice. There seemed to have been a movement that was built mainly on just the throwing out of slogans like xenophobe, homophobe, transphobe, misogynist, as answers to questions like, oh, what's on your mind, or what's troubling you? And you just, it just seems like it was just a bunch of terms thrown out that were not strung into coherent sentences, never mind, thoughtful paragraphs.
Hey, does Donald Trump tweet those sorts of things? Is that what he's tweeting?
No. This is apparently, after the election, part of the end of the cycle there. Right. And, people were protesting.
Right.
And, okay, so what is it about Donald Trump that you don't like? And instead of getting sentences, he's a misogynist, he's a xenophobe, he's a white supremacist.
Rooster.
Huh?
He is definitely a strutting rooster.
Yes, he is. I feel that in many ways, he's going to be a big player on the world stage, especially in this first year. And I think probably nobody's going to represent the rooster better than Donald Trump. Strutting around. I saw something today that he's got a new hairdo.
No way.
For the inauguration, he's actually going to I think he's going to rebrand himself. Which is kind of funny because the old do he had was almost perfect as a coxcomb.
Oh, well, we certainly had a lot of fun with his hairdo, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
No, I'm sure that won't stop. Because the year of the rooster, besides that it's the dawn, and the new awakening and all the metaphors that are so, so easy to see from the rooster, it's also inner warmth and insight. What are we going to do with that completion, right? That insight. We allow it to come inside and percolate. And the forgotten kind of nuances arise suddenly from seemingly out of nowhere. So we have a few days to make some last minute cleanup.
Yes. Um, and so, so both Standing Rock, I mean, what a beautiful way to close out a cycle, and then the hibernation of winter.
Yes.
And then the reemergence of a new cycle, and something that can start in spring and carry through is something that I think will continue with the awakening and the unity of us as one people, as far as, in our hearts. And with our diversity is obvious, doesn't need, and where the diversity is doesn't have to be focused upon. It's obvious, but the unity is where we're going to focus.
And then, we can hope that the collective expression of that unity is then modeled by Donald Trump. I think we have a strong influence, and it doesn't even have to be a conscious influence, but accessing the noosphere is not even something deliberate or intentional. It's something that is occurring, and then we have the reflection back to us by people such as Donald Trump. And also in your own life, you can look in your own personal life and find your own representation of Donald Trump. Your own demonstration of the rooster versus completion of the monkey, the trickery, the intelligence, whatever you wanted to say about the year of completion, how that happened in your own personal life. But it's pretty easy to see how it happened on the global stage. And to know and take ownership, we have an impact on that. People are seeing Trump act in such a widely diverse way, right? I mean, one moment he's looking like a complete fool, and then the next minute he's all sensitive. So what's the common denominator there? Is it just coming down to interpretation, perception? What is that?
I think a lot of it is perception, and projection.
Yeah, projection.
But one of the things I am liking about at least those who are at least finding Donald Trump as somebody to favorably is
potential catalyst.
A catalyst, and also not as a savior.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
As a representative of a common outpouring of enough is enough, and let's do things differently.
That is so important what you just said, because I think this might be the first year that people are not looking to a president to be a savior. They are so not.
No, I think the people who put him there are looking for him to fulfill the ideas that he said he had, and they said, yeah, we like these ideas. And I mean, especially a lot of the people in the alternative media who helped him get some exposure. They're all about we're his cheerleaders. We're cheering him. That's different. That's support. That's a team type of thing. But if we're ready with the booze, if it doesn't go, this is not a free ride. This is like a kind of like almost a commissioning. Somebody said, hey, I can get the job. I said, fine, we're hiring you, but don't
your mouth is.
Yeah, but yeah, you're not the only one who could say you're fired.
Yeah, we need a little fire behind that big smoke now.
Yeah. So I really see people really stepping into a form of empowerment, and there's going to invariably be the chief, so to speak, in a more native sense. But the chief's thing is to represent the tribe, and the tribe has to communicate and always give the chief. The tribe has to give the chief feedback. Because again, it's you have a purpose, and even with the rooster's job is to watch out for the brood, and in many ways that's the brood does its own thing, and the rooster has a few things to do. I just see a lot of fun symbology and metaphor here.
Yeah, I love that it's the rooster year. That's a blend of righteousness, justice, logistical efficiency. you know, so those, that could even be reflected in the type of jobs that we see being completed and no longer needed, right? And with a new advent of a whole new career path for so many people. And boy, would I love to provide alternative careers for everybody in oil and gas, because that is one thing that we have had and not needed oil and gas for so many years,
Mm-hmm.
but we know why it's still in existence. So I would love to see career paths being offered for alternative type energy.
Well, it's interesting. I got a chance. Somebody bought the Alta report by Cliff High for me and sent it
Oh
to me.
yeah.
And this whole Antarctica thing,
Interesting.
again, anybody doesn't know about Cliff High, he does these web bots that kind of comb through language and look for intensity. And he kind of constructed it back in the 90s where the unconscious wants the conscious to know what it knows, because it's able to be telepathic and be, it's not in so much in time. So it escapes through language in ways that are not necessarily perceptible by people, but when you kind of look at it from a kind of like numerical values, certain language values emerge from words that are finding constant usage in the language, or certain phrases. And apparently one of the things that's emerging is that there's precious something in Antarctica, and it doesn't seem to point at precious metals, but precious technology.
Well, that's what they've been looking for across the globe for some time, is the underground and hidden technologies that they've known have been there. It's a matter of when are they willing to let the general public in on it.
Well, the language seemed to feel that this might be the year, especially kind of heading towards summer, where this stuff starts to emerge. So we can only hope. Actually, more important, let us intend, because its time has come.
It has, and people are stepping into their own resolve and reclaiming any sense of authority and sovereignty in their life. Just, okay, we've had enough with the promises, the empty promises nothing came out of. So what are we going to do about it? So we're just doing our own thing. Everybody's taking a little piece of it and making their own world a little better in their own immediate community. And we saw that demonstrated at Standing Rock. Did you catch, okay, I'm not interested in Hollywood. I just don't have receptors to understand that sort of thing. However, I did listen to Meryl Streep's speech. She absolutely so beautifully nailed it in the kindest and most honorable, respectful way. But she totally nailed it. So I'd recommend everybody. It's everywhere. YouTube, Facebook, yes. Everywhere. It's pretty easy to find it, but I think it's a really clear representation of people just stepping forward and saying, okay, there has been nothing in these empty promises, so here's what we're going to do about it. Whatever that looks like in the individual's life.
And so moving from Standing Rock and the Golden Globes to the other thing that I thought was part of the end of a cycle. And in many ways, biblical phraseology is not one of my favorite things. But there's a certain end times theme in a certain way to 2016 because of, to me, what I saw as an apocalypse. And of course, apocalypse means unveiling. It means that the cover, it's kind of the Wizard of Oz moment.
Yeah.
When I get to the curtain.
Yeah, take it down already.
And to me, and I like to call it the zombie apocalypse,
Hmm.
only because the kind of mindlessness of of almost zombies, they move as one thing. Oh, give us your, we want flesh or whatever. But when the fake news thing broke,
Right.
the people who got behind that exposed themselves, um, and there was an apocalypse on their part. And so even it's like people who might have been hiding in the shadows and you weren't sure where they were. When this meme came out, it's like everybody who kind of jumped on that. Um, it kind of it was so glaring, and even somebody who I'm quite sure a lot of people suspected, but when Pope Francis came out and said that those who read fake news, meaning news that wasn't on the mainstream media, was equivalent to coprophilia, or and he said getting pleasure from eating poop.
Hmm.
So when he came out basically against people expressing the truth, to me, he exposed that he was part of the New World Order and part of the globalist movement that the mainstream media represent. So to me, he got seriously busted. I mean, it wasn't like he wasn't suspect, but he got apocalypsed.
Well, it certainly had. I remember you kind of predicting that this is going to come back and bite them in the butt, and it certainly has. It certainly has exposed them for who they are.
Just today, Washington News doesn't want to use the fake news term anymore that they kind of started, because it's getting used towards them and their latest. The Russians that did it. I mean, and the funny thing is, all these memes they throw out, they end up eating it. I mean, when Hillary threw out the deplorables,
Right.
everybody on a Trump team decided to call themselves the deplorables.
Hmm.
I mean, even on Twitter, deplorable Nancy, deplorable Bill. I mean, they wore it as a badge of honor.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, the whole fake news thing kind of, became this, oh yeah, sure, but I mean, everything it's been like a jujitsu of this. And there was one other situation. It's escaping me, and actually started my thought, and I should have just jumped into it. Because you were saying, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, one of our grandmothers from GMOP, Mary Beth, has had the idea for many years that what we need is a board of normals.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind assigning these great titles. What we need is the board of normals. So let's all gather together and unite, and we can be the board of normals that kind of run the show. And that's like, let's just bring it back to common sense already.
Well, I just read an article yesterday about the experts and actually how they're trying, like, in other words, elite doesn't sound good, and the elite are not elite very much. They're just, kind of pampered princes and princesses, from the political thing. I'm not talking about royal families,
Yeah.
although it could include them, but I'm not using it in that term. And boy, I wish I got a little more sleep. But actually, but since elite didn't work, so now they try experts. But again, these experts, very often, they just appointed people as appointed experts, but they're not really experts at anything. They're experts at getting the official line out.
Well, I think people are quite a bit more discerning now, and they're really engaging the critical thinking. And what we know is that critical feeling must come before critical thinking. You have to be able to know. It's like when they decided we're going to stop calling aspartame and we'll give it some new holistic sounding name. That just didn't fly. Nobody bought it. People are already, discerning enough that they're looking into you're just not going to pull the wool over their eyes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Not that easily. You're gonna have to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been the funniest thing that everything that they try and throw out and make stick on other people, it just ends up sticking back on them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been really, really amusing.
That's been a truth always, and they're only just learning it. This is kind of the mirror effect. You know, kids have little nursery rhymes that they repeat about that exactly. You know, what you throw out is going to come back and stick on you. Huh? This has been a given truth all along. They're just a little slow on the uptake to learn it.
Right. Well,
But we've been slow on the uptake to realize they're not going to come in and do anything good for us too. You know, it took us quite a while to decide, okay, I guess we're going to have to just do it for ourselves because there is no great savior happening in that way.
well, I remember the point I was going to make is like when they started, even a few weeks ago, with the Russians did it, and how many people started turning that into a joke just to show them what we thought of it. You know, it was like everybody's like, well, oh, you know, they had, I remember a picture of a dog that had destroyed everything, and the phrase was the Russians did it.
I saw that one.
And one of, like, apparently Hillary had done an outside thing. She was standing at a podium and there was almost nobody in the crowd. And the phrase was, the Russians stole my crowd, or took my crowd. And so this whole way of every time they try to, you know, this gravitas, oh, fake news, oh, the Russians, and the people are just turning it into a joke. Very hard to make your case when everybody's taking your case and actually getting yucks out of it. They're blasting it everywhere because it's such a good joke. Thanks, fake news.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
And there's very few better ways to address power than to break their spell. Making fun of power. Not taking guns. Making fun of it is the best way to dismantle it, and it hurts them the most. They'd rather you pick up a gun to make fun of them.
Well, sure, because then we're using their tools, you know, which is just adding fuel to their fire.
Right.
But really, it's a very joyful expression of who people really, really are. There's few people that actually want to go out and, you know, treat them the way they've treated us.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they're blessed that way, but it's not who we are.
And of course, Pepe the Frog, you know, that meme that it started to, you know, I mean, Hillary even mentioned about that, you know, Pepe, they took the frog and they started saying it was a sign of white supremacy and racism. And then the next thing you know, as soon as she said that, he started showing up everywhere, you know, just, no matter what they did, no matter how serious, every time that they were supposed to be taken seriously on something, the other side that they were trying to make look nasty just made fun of it. Mm-hmm. It was like almost like the last throws of the monkey. It was like every time they threw something, basically these people just said like this, threw the monkey poo back at them.
And that's wonderful. But if we could just take that one step further and find out what's been the monkey in our own private lives, let's laugh at that too and let it go.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And that's the beauty of it. We see it outside of ourselves because then we can easily identify with, oh, gee, where have I done that? Mm-hmm. Well, let's take it to a global scale, because really, I think across the board, people have a great appreciation for Putin too, for Russia, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's proven himself. When Obama in one of his last tantrums threw out the diplomats, and the Russians responded. Not only did they say we're not going to indulge in kitchen diplomacy, which I find out is a Russian phrase for when husband and wife tend to argue at the kitchen sink. That's what they're kind of like, it's like, just bickering. Mm-hmm. And then not only did they not throw them out, they invited them to the Kremlin party. Mm-hmm. All their families. I mean, it's just been amazing. And I think it was just yesterday, people said, it's not, Putin's not on our team. But it seems like he's more popular with the people trust him more than they trust the American government.
Oh, why would that be, folks?
Note to you, Obama, they do.
Most definitely.
And the incoming administration is quite aware and shares that kind of admiration for somebody who is trying to be a statesman and not a spoiled child.
Uh-huh. And maybe has a little deeper, more sophistication behind the ideas. It's not just, oh, there's a problem, let's build a wall, let's cancel this, there's a little more in-depth planning, sophistication. It's called inclusiveness. It's inclusivity.
Yeah. And if anybody who really paid attention to him, one of the biggest things he was talking about was the moral decay of the West. I mean, I'm reading about programs where they want to start teaching sex ed to 2-year-olds. They want to start showing porn to 5-year-olds in schools. I mean, these are ideas that they're actually putting out there. So
I'm not even going to start quoting some of the answers that these people have given with response to porn, trying to justify it.
Yes, we don't, of course not.
We just don't even need to address that.
And so obviously this is kind of like the stuff that's coming out of what I'm calling cultural Marxism, which is a mindset that is meant to degrade society. And coming largely out of the universities, but specifically on, West and East Coast, where now the middle of the country, the Rust Belt, the deplorables, they're horrified at all of this. And so, so one of the common threads I see about America restoring relations with Russia is coming back to at least decency. Instead of degeneracy. Nobody has to be a prude. And I don't think I think the Americans have gotten out of their prudish state, but this degeneracy, this decay that is, and it's emanating from the highest levels of education. These are professors that are kind of putting this out and creating this is what you do if you're enlightened. This is what you do if you're progressive. And that's the other thing, is the progressive left is now more commonly in the end of 2016, the progressive left is now generally referred to as the regressive left.
Right. Yeah.
Progressivism is now dead.
Mm-hmm.
It's been seen for what it is.
And that's why I had appreciation for what Meryl Streep had said, because she had brought to people's attention the fact that when somebody sitting in a position such as Trump is right now, when he says things, it gives people the permission to repeat after him and say the same thing. But she was bringing it to people's attention to really apply some critical thinking and critical feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And that, instead of just repeating what he said, don't take that as permission to be to match yourself after him.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't say it by even naming him. She didn't even have to name him.
Right.
To say it. She was very classy about what she said, but that was part of the message. Don't think just because somebody in the position that we have given him
mm-hmm.
is saying that this is the way to speak,
right,
or the way to live.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to look to other leaders, to our own ancestors, how about to looking right into our own heart and finding out, is that right for me?
Always. That's always where we need to look.
Mm-hmm.
It's always into our hearts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so Putin resonates with my heart a whole lot more than some of the things I've heard coming out of Donald Trump's mouth.
Yes.
And they're just the colorful ones. You know what? There's leaders all over this planet, I'm sure, are doing wonderful things.
Mm-hmm.
And with their communities, not even, that big scale.
Really, to me, the other thing that was the end of a cycle is basically globalism, the new world order. This whole one world government
mm-hmm.
basically has died as a concept in 2016. And 2017 is going to be when the cleanup starts.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
It has a lot to do with fire.
Mm-hmm.
And engaging the fire appropriately.
Mm-hmm. As fire should always be engaged appropriately, because when you don't respect the spirit of fire, you can end up getting burned.
Mm-hmm.
So how about we look ahead?
Let's do it.
The thing I'd like to project into 2017, besides a more loving society,
mm-hmm.
but let's pick a technology. Hemp, make it happen. as a fuel source, as a food source, as a fabric source, as a soil remediation for cleaning up so many things, as even as a biomass fuel. Endless possibilities. It's time for nature to be decriminalized. And then hemp's other, cannabis. The other thing is, I like a saying I read recently is, we don't need to find a cure for cancer. We need to decriminalize it.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And I love those back to nature. Let's respect who we are, because we're going to learn who we are when we do that, when we take that approach. But there's so many technologies. Well, I would like to give a shout out to Bliss, because Bliss is the fastest way to healing and wellness, and really would assist in so many ways. Those sorts of things that have just fallen through the cracks of society and been swept off because nobody knows how to deal with them. So I'm going to give a big shout out to Therify.
And one of the best ways to bring about bliss and to know how to find it is to, what can you share?
Yeah.
Shareable thoughts, shareable actions, the things that we can bring together through sharing. We can create synergies. We can create implosion. We can create, that stirring, the negentropy. Sharing is negentropic.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, I was just listening to something before we started the show. It was from Kev Baker. He had somebody on, and apparently, science has found out that the universe is expanding. Now, when they say the universe, I would like to think that they're probably measuring a lot of our own Milky Way. I really believe that there was a period where we were contracting, and I think this new energy of love, this new energy of sharing, as soon as that starts, it expands again, because now we're imploding, we're making energy instead of just decaying.
Okay, but there is expansion and there is contraction, and it happens simultaneously, and we need to embrace both the left and the right hand of God. So yes, I agree with you, but the contraction is just as vital and just as important. It's about where you're at. What is your point of reference within? And so, not to take away from what you were saying, because that concept is very, very valuable, but I just have to say contraction is just as important as expansion, but it's a matter of your perception and your point of reference in it all. It takes both, I don't want to do the quantum physics thing right now. But
No, I think it's good to explain to people, because, in many ways, a vortex is a form of contraction, but you get to that kind of almost zero point of contraction that you tap into universal energy that creates more energy than, it is conceptual, and you're quite right and because it is without that kind of squeezing almost down to the 0 point where you tap into the universal energy that allows you, and then once you tap into that, and that's the negentropy of it all.
That's right. We could call it longitudinal compression.
Mm.
Well, hallelujah, 2017.
And I'm hoping that, it looks to me, another thing that kind of came to an end in 2016, and so part of the is ignorance. People, like this constant, almost like a willful ignorance, seems to have come to an end, and that's why I think political correctness has come to an end. Again, and it's that cloying political correctness. It's not now everybody goes out and acts like a bunch of barroom talkers. It's just that we relax, we understand that we don't want to be offensive to people, but neither do we want to stifle ourselves to the point where we're thought policing. Because the moment you start wondering what you can say, you just start shutting down, and you stop exploring the universe in many ways. So living in the moment, Is, you know, I see more
That's-
living in the moment and living from our heart, which is, you know, that I see more of in 2017.
Mhm.
Yeah. I just see, for me, I just see, I really see a new dawn being announced by the crow of the rooster.
Mhm.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Those roosters, I tell you, they arrive so much earlier than what I've ever been prepared for, but bring it on. I'm ready this time.
I think we all are. And I also think another thing that I think we're going to see more climate reality.
Yeah, reality. There you go.
Um,
Call it what it is.
you know, I mean, we did a show on that. I pulled out the graph, and this whole idea of climate denying and everything else, I think we said goodbye to that in 2016, and I think we're going to come to, you know, climate reality.
Mhm.
And the real nature of things are always changing. I think we're going to see real the whole gamut of all science, not just select, like, in other words, oh, well, what is the agenda? Well, this is the science we choose. And of course, some scientists are going, what agenda are we proving? Okay, we have the data for you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, you know, we can make it look whatever we want. I think in 2017 we're going to see a lot more climate reality.
I think we're going to see a lot more acknowledgement of science and spirituality speaking the same message.
Yeah, and where we focus more on toxins rather than CO2.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's toxic?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is actually poisonous?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that was a pretty good read. You have any things you see in your crystal ball?
Oh, I do. Let's save that for next week.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to thank you, as always, for
Thank you.
just providing such a nice place to have a good show.
Yeah, we have fun.
And so until next time, Shelley and I would like to say goodbye. Of course, Shelley, you can just say goodbye yourself.
Yeah.
And
See y'all soon.
I think we like to extend lots of love and sharing.
Mm.